Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sincere from the Standard 81 podcast, and I am back with Rant Wednesday. Oh my God, here we go. Today, I'm going to talk about materialism. Now, usually in these streams, I don't give definitions or anything like that. I try not to do much research, but we will. But before I do any of that, let's take a 30-second break, get our mind right, and I'll be right back. Perfect. And we are back, everybody. Now, before I get into this, go ahead and hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with people that you know that can use the material and like the things that I'm dropping. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's talk about materialism. Now, honestly, I'm gonna just be honest with you guys. I didn't know what I was going to talk about prior to until I watched the video. I forgot to clip the video or look up the video, but um it inspired me to talk about this particular thing, materialism. So let's look at this here real quick. I'm gonna share the screen. Boom. It says materialism, a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort more important than spiritual values. The doctrine that nothing exists except matter and its movement and modifications. All right, let's stop sharing. Let's go back. Perfect. All right. So now that you've seen the definition of that, let's talk about this for real, for real. It seems as though in today's day and age, we are obsessed with things. We are so concerned about the things that we have and the things that we don't have that we forget all the intrinsic value in the stuff and the intangible things that we should be concentrating on. And this is especially applies to dating, right? Because it seems like to me in this day and age, we are so worried about being comfortable and living these comfortable lives that we forget about the character of a person until we crash head first into a wall where the material possessions don't matter. So you got to start asking yourself, if material is the thing that's is driving you, being a one percenter. I heard a young lady yesterday on Anton Daniels channel. I was watching one of his clips. I think that's where I kind of got this from. She was talking about she's a top one percenter and she thinks like a boss, and being with her is an experience, and so on and so on. And that's fine. Don't get me wrong. Strive for your goals, strive to reach things, strive to excel. But when you start talking about yourself as though you are somebody other than just a person, that's when things start to get scary. Because let me tell you this, if you didn't have those things, you would still be you. And as many people have found out over the course of time, that if they lose what it is they think makes them great, nobody really cares all that much. You are sure to find out the same thing. So let's stop focusing in on the stuff that we have, saying this is intrinsically what makes us more valuable than other people, and start saying this is what we have strived to get, and this is what's going to help guide us in the life that we want to lead. Because ultimately that's all it is. It's a guidance. It's a way to guide us to the place that we want to be. Money is a tool. Material possessions are tools. These things are not supposed to be the things that intrinsically make us into the person that we are. Because here's the sad thing: the moment that we lose them, who are we? I'll say that again. The moment that you lose it all, who are you? There's a story in the Bible that Jesus told, and you know that I'm a Christian, so I'm going to always go there. And I'm sure if you guys have been to church at any point in time, you probably heard this story. It's called the prodigal son. And I'm going to skip all the beginning of it and get right to the meat of it. This man, while he had all his money, everybody loved him. Everybody wanted to party with him. Everybody wanted to do all this stuff. And as soon as he lost it all, there was nowhere to be found. This man winded up having to be over pigs and eat pig slop. Take care of pigs and winded up eating pig slop, only to realize that what he had at home was better. Who he was before he had all that was better. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think the things that you have and the money that you have makes you into somebody that's better than everybody else, you highly mistaken. The Bible tells us it rains on the just and on the unjust. So that means this: good times are going to happen to those people who are at the top, as well as those people at the bottom. How you are affected by those things can depend on your social economic status, but nonetheless, it's going to happen. Oftentimes, we think because we have accumulated a vast amount of possessions, and because we have money, we are somehow exempt from the things of life. We worship these things. We think they're our prized possession. And then when somebody calls us to Front Street about it, or somebody doesn't care about the things that you have, we get upset. We start saying they don't know our value. They don't know who we are. Who are you? And why should we care? Do you really hold any power over an individual? No, you don't. Are you going to make or break an individual? For the most part, no, you don't. Even those people who are employers, who have businesses, you are not going to make or break an individual. That person has free will. Now, let me say this. Yes, you have the ability to stop their income from coming, but they also have the ability to enable to back off of the work that you give them. They can freely leave. See, the thing is, we think that somehow when we get to particular places in life and get to a particular status in life, that somehow we control more than we do. No, most people do things intrinsically out of duty, because they have something they need, because they have a step in a place that they want to go overall. And being with you or being in your presence or working for your particular company is helping them to push forward towards their goals just as much as you were pushing towards yours before you got to that particular place. We tend to forget who we were before we had all the material, before we had all the money. And I hear a lot about, oh, it's about mindset. It's about mindset. It's about the young lady in that particular clip was talking about I had a 1% mindset. Cool. It's not great. It's not a bad thing to strive for greatness. But when you think that having a particular mindset makes you more valuable than those who want to speak to you and want to come up to you, then you've putting yourself on a higher pedestal than you should. And when that pedestal is knocked down, God forbid, you see those same people as you falling because they ain't going to help you. They're going to laugh and they're going to look and be like, oh, remember when you said you were an experience? So I'm going to let you go ahead and experience this fall. I'm gonna let you go ahead and experience what it's like to fall from the top 1%. An attitude of humility and grace is always going to get you further than worrying about what it is you have and what is you don't have. Comparing yourself to other people because of the things that you got and the things that you don't will only lead you to disaster. And it may not lead you to immediate disaster because so many people, when I say that, they're like, oh, nothing has happened to me now. But in the time you least expect it, in the time that you thought everything was going to be there for you, it all falls apart. And then you're crying out to God, talking about, why did this happen? At some point, you had to be humbled. At some point, you had to be shown that the stuff that you accumulated, the money that you have, the success don't mean nothing. One of the wisest and richest men in the Bible said, excuse me, said that everything he had was foolishness. It was like chasing after the wind. All the stuff that he had accumulated was foolishness, chasing after the wind. All the money he had, foolishness, chasing after the wind. All the success, all the homes, all the houses, foolishness. Because at the end of the day, that's not what makes you. We worship these things. We make these things, we have these things making us think that we are higher than we actually are. And you wonder why you don't get engagement like that. You wonder why people look at you a certain way. You wonder why people don't respect you as much without the things that you got. You wonder why when you reach out to certain people, they're not as receptive. You wonder why things happen the way they do. Well, it's because of your thought process. It's because your materialism, your thinking that having these things put you above people prevents you from the very thing you thought you were reaching to. And I'm not going to sit there and say it's easy to think that way, especially when you're having success after success after success. We tend to like to boast ourselves up and lift ourselves up. But you always got to consider, who was I before this? Who was I before all this stuff? What kind of person am I on the inside? I mean, are we really as posh and as high as we think we are? I'm not saying that you should have a a small mentality, but my goodness, the Bible tells us that Jesus came to this earth not to be served, but to serve. And if anybody had the reason to be pious and haughty, it would be him, the creator of the entire universe. You couldn't tell him nothing. I'll give you uh, Satan in the wilderness. I seen a clip where Satan was tempted Jesus in the wilderness, and it was a funny thing because he was like, what are you talking about? Satan said, "Oh, I'll give you all the stuff of this earth." And he said, and Jesus looked at him and said, "What are you talking about? Did you forget I was omniscient? Did you forget all this stuff is mine anyway? Do you think I just forgot about it? I took on human form and all of a sudden I forgot that I was God?" But somehow people who are made out of dust think we're God when we attain a little bit of stuff. And we think we have a right to belittle people, look at people as though they're less than, and tell people they don't qualify. Now, I'm not telling you that you should enter into substantial relationships with people that are not going to help motivate you or help put you in a better position. No, I am not saying that. But what I am saying is, when you obtain certain things and when you get certain things and when you have certain things, this does not necessarily make you better than the next person. It just means you're more accomplished. That's all it means. It means you put in the hard work where they didn't. We all have the same brain. We all have the same amount of intellect. It's just how you use it. It's the difference between potential energy and kinetic energy. Everybody has potential. And that potential can be at the top or it can be at the bottom. But when you start putting that potential energy in motion, all of a sudden you see how far it lifts you. But some people think it just happens through osmosis. And I get it. Be proud of your work, be proud of the things that you've accomplished. But when that starts to take over and it starts to be your whole identity, it starts to be everything you are, then you're missing it. And you're like, "Oh, you just talking that way because you ain't made it. You ain't got it like that. And if you had it like that, you would know differently." Let me hear. I'm here to tell you right now, it wouldn't be. I'm old enough now to know the difference because some things don't change as you age. You start realizing that the things that I once treasured are not as shiny anymore. We see it within relationships. People start getting older and older and older, and they have all these things, they've accomplished all this stuff, and if they have nobody to share it with, they say the one thing I regret is not finding somebody, not finding companionship. They never say, "Oh, I wish I got more money. I wish I would have invested in more businesses." See, and I'm talking specifically to the black community now. We keep on talking about building generational wealth and building legacy. For who? For children of men that women don't even wanna be around? A legacy of what? Legacy of anger, hatred, and, materialism? What is it that we are constructing all this for? What is it that we are building? What is the legacy we are actually leaving behind by being more materialistic than most groups? What is the wealth outside of the money that we are leaving behind for these people, for the next generation? Is it telling them that, hey, if you don't make money and you don't get an education, you're a nobody? Isn't that called elitism? It's so funny in a culture that's all about isms and schisms and different phrases. The moment we start being successful and we start obtaining a certain amount of money and we get to a certain tax bracket, all of a sudden we're elitist. I get it. I get it. You don't want to be around poverty. But I did a TikTok yesterday that says a lot of what we do is rooted in fears and insecurities. And I say that to this day because I know personally some of the stuff that I do and some of the stuff that I focus in on is because of my insecurities and my fears. And as a culture, black people, we do a lot of that. I was talking in general at first, but now I'm talking to my people. We do a lot of that. Then we start shunning our own and and saying that we're too good and you can't approach me like this and you can't get what is that? How are you building up a community with that? How are you building up legacy? How are you building up any generational anything with that? You're not. You're defeating the whole purpose of having material possessions and having money. These are tools. I will say it again. Money and material possessions are supposed to be tools to help you get to the next phase of your life, not things that you glorify and worship. This is why when God comes back, when Jesus comes back, it says this in the Bible, he's going to destroy all of it. Because for too long, we have worshiped this like it was going to make or break us. It is not until we are in some type of calamity or we are in some type of danger or we are in some place where those things no longer mean as much as they did before that we start to realize we are just as much human as the next person. That the things we have accumulated and the things that we have are not really all that important. And we start concentrating on character, values, and the things that really make us who we are. Sad fact. So until we start concentrating more on what's going on in our lives, in our mentality, in the way that we think about things, the more we're going to keep on depriving ourselves of what it really means to live. And that's all I'm going to say. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this rant. My name is Sincere. Once again, hit the like button for me. Share if you feel like this was valuable. Subscribe. I want to grow this channel. I appreciate it very much. Check out my Instagram at Sincere the Artist. Check out the TikTok over there at the Standard 81 Podcast. I greatly appreciate that as well. Email me, do whatever you need to do. You can get in contact with me. You can hit me up. We can collaborate. You can do whatever, right? But yeah. And if you're watching this after it comes out, type second watch in the comments for me. Greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace to you all. I'm out.